I've built the same search filter in the same application twice, once using declarative programming and once using imperative programming. Now, although the result looks exactly the same, knowing the difference between these two approaches could drastically improve your applications, especially if you are using RxJS and observables. I've published an article that I'll link to in the description that gives an in-depth rundown of what the difference is between imperative and declarative programming and how to build this feature with both of those styles of programming. In this video, we are going to just quickly run through the differences in the code base between these two differently approached features. So let's take a look at the imperative approach first. So the way I remember this is that an imperative is like an order. With this approach, we tell our code what to do step by step. We get this data, then we do this, then we do that. So this is kind of like the default way to go about coding something and how most people will learn to code in the first place. We just follow a series of logical steps to do what we need to get done. It's easier to think about and to execute, but it lacks some of the benefits of the declarative approach. So let's have a look at what we're actually doing here. So we have a list of clients. We want to filter that list of clients based on a search term. So we have a search field set up that is a form control. We are keeping a reference to the full list of clients, and we are also setting up an array of filtered clients that we will use in the template to actually display in the list. We're going to be using some observables here, so we set up a destroy subject so that we can trigger this to immediately unsubscribe from all of the observables that we need to set up to do this. And most of what we are doing takes place in the ng on init lifecycle hook. So with this imperative approach, first we get our client data. So we make a call to our client service, which will return an observable of clients back to us. We pipe in our take until destroy subject here to automatically unsubscribe from that when we need to. Then we subscribe to the getClients method. We get that client's data, and then we set it to both our clients and our filtered clients arrays. So now that we have that data set up, now we need to filter it by our search term. So to do that, we just subscribe to the value changes observable from our form control. Each time that is passed a new search term, we just then replace the filtered clients variable with an array of clients that has been filtered using that search term. And we also pipe in our take until destroy subject as well, so that we can unsubscribe from this when the component is destroyed. So this is a pretty standard way to go about doing this, and this approach is fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with doing this, but you can probably see how we are taking that sort of imperative approach of getting this data, then getting that data, and then doing something with that. It's all very sort of step-by-step kind of process. So now let's take a look at the declarative approach. So the way I remember this one is that a declaration is a statement. So with this approach, we describe what we want rather than specifying exactly how everything should happen step by step to get to that point. So RxJS and observables allow for reactive programming, which is a type of declarative programming. And so coding in this way can be more difficult to reason about, and it can seem quite different to the way most people initially learn to code, but it does offer some huge benefits. So let's see what is happening here that is different to our last approach, remembering that both of these result in the exact same result in our application. So we still have our form control being set up to get those search terms. We don't have the reference to clients anymore. We just have a single filtered clients member variable here. And the difference here is that this is actually an observable. So in the imperative example, we were supplying just a normal array of data to the template. In this case, we are going to supply this observable to our list in the template, and we use the async pipe. And what this will do is it will handle automatically subscribing to this observable to get the data out to put it into this list, and it will also automatically unsubscribe for us as well. Now, if we look at our ng on init, you can see it is actually quite a bit shorter than it was before, even with these extra comments that I've added to give some extra explanation. But if you're not as familiar with RxJS and the various operators they offer, if you're not familiar with the declarative style of programming, this might be a little bit more difficult to understand what is going on. So in this case, rather than getting all the data we need, getting the data for the clients, getting the data for the filter, and then doing what we need, in this case, we get streams of what we need. So you can see here we are setting up an observable of the client's data, and then we are getting an observable of our search term as well, just from that value changes. And I'll explain this start with in just a moment as well. So what we do with both of those streams then is that we sort of mix them together using combine latest. So we take our two streams to create a new stream called filtered clients. So this is kind of like mixing these together into a little soup. We get both of our streams, we mix them together, and then we're using a map to define what we want this new stream to be. So we combine both of these streams, we map them, we have access to the latest data from both of those streams, and then we're defining what we want this new stream to look like. And in this case, it's going to be just filtering that client data by the search term. So with this approach, we never subscribe at all. We never actually pull the data out of the stream. We're just describing what we want to happen when these two streams are combined together. And the result of that is a single new stream that we can use directly in our template. And that stream is going to just be a filtered list of clients. Now, the reason that we use start with here on our value changes observable is that this combine latest won't actually trigger until both observable streams emit at least one value. So we will have a value for our client stream, but for our search term, that's not going to be triggered until we actually enter into that search box. Now, obviously, we also want to have an initial set of data there. We don't want it to just be blank. So we just use start with, which is just going to trigger one data emission on that value changes observable. And it's just going to start it with that initial search field value. And so the cool thing about this approach is that any time that the clients or the search term stream changes, this is automatically going to trigger again. And the filtered clients observable is going to automatically update to reflect that new state. And so the result is a list that gets filtered. The UI is automatically going to react to these changes without us ever having to manually subscribe and get that data out ourselves, which also obviously has the huge benefit of not needing to manage those subscriptions. In this example, we don't have to have anything like a take until to unsubscribe from those observables when the component is destroyed. Now I can appreciate that if this is new to you, going through this code like this probably hasn't solidified this concept in your head. What I'm hoping to achieve with this video is just to introduce you to this new concept, and I would highly recommend checking out the article I will link in the description, which goes into these concepts in a lot more depth. And then I would just encourage you to start playing around with this idea of trying to combine and mix and merge streams in this way, rather than always subscribing to observables to get data out of them. And as I mentioned in the article, that is sort of one of the key concepts of programming declaratively with RxJS, is not subscribing to observable streams. You can subscribe to observable streams, that is still necessary, but wherever possible, preferring to use RxJS operators and combining streams rather than just pulling data straight out of them by subscribing. So if you do want to get a little bit more into the theory behind what's going on here, I'd highly recommend checking out the article that I will link in the description. You'll also be able to find the complete source code for these examples as well. Okay, I hope you liked this video. If you did, do feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.